Is Captain Ibrahim Traoré the greatest African leader of our time, or just another rising dictator in disguise? Love him or hate him, one thing's clear: Ibrahim Traoré is not playing by the old rulebook. He's writing a new one, and it's 100% African. In Burkina Faso, a reality show broadcast by Canal Plus has been taken off the air by Ibrahim Traoré. Imagine a TV show where single women compete for the attention of one lucky guy, and even his mum gets to judge them. That's exactly what a French channel called Canal Plus was airing in Burkina Faso. But the government there watched it and said, "Hold on, this isn't okay." They felt the game, which basically asked, "Who wants to marry my son?" was turning women into prizes. Contestants were doing everything they could, flattery, tricks, even outdoing each other to win over both the man and his mother. Instead of celebrating women for who they are, it made them feel like they had to change themselves just to win a show. Because this kind of program clashed with Burkina Faso's values and seemed to disrespect women, the authorities stepped in. They asked Canal Plus to stop broadcasting it, and now the show is gone from the airwaves. Let's take a closer look at what was so troubling about this game. But here's the thing, it wasn't the first time something like this was pulled off the air. Remember The Bachelor? Yep, that too got the boot. Why? Because these shows, originally made for Western audiences, are now being repackaged and dropped into African homes like it's no big deal. It's like someone said, "Hey, let's take this Western love drama, give it an African flavor, and watch them eat it up." And sure enough, many people did watch. Some even celebrated it. In a lot of West African countries where French is widely spoken, there's this quiet pressure to act, talk, and even think like the French. The more Parisian your accent, the more educated or classy you're seen to be. It's like a leftover shadow from the colonial days, and in that space, shows like these slip in easily. But the current leadership in Burkina Faso is taking a hard stand. They've basically said, "We're not here for content that cheapens our people or turns women into props in someone's dating game." They see these shows as crossing the line, less about fun and more about turning relationships and dignity into entertainment. Still, not everyone agrees. Critics are starting to whisper things like, "Isn't this censorship?" or "Is the president trying to control too much?" Some even accuse Captain Ibrahim Traoré of stepping into dictator territory, wondering why the government should get to decide what people watch at home. Shouldn't families decide for themselves what's appropriate for their kids? Shouldn't people get to choose whether they want to tune in or change the channel? But this debate isn't happening in a vacuum. Let's be real, France isn't thrilled about what's been going down lately either. After getting the boot from Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali, France has been counting losses, and they're not small. Just look at Air France. It reportedly lost around 65 million euros after being pushed out of the region. For years, Air France flew in and out of Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso like it owned the skies. With barely any competition, it was making bank, millions every single day. Just from flights, we're talking hundreds of millions of CFA francs daily from each of those countries. Altogether, that's over 2 million euros a day from one airline. But then the winds shifted. New leadership came to power, and they weren't about to let things stay the same. These fresh military governments had a different vibe. They were done playing nice with old systems that only seemed to benefit France. So one by one, they started closing the doors. Big French companies had to pack up. Soldiers stationed on African soil were told to leave. And the tight grip France once had on the region, loosening fast. Air France felt it immediately. Suddenly, those daily profits dried up. And it wasn't just about flights. France's whole economy started feeling the pressure. They've been trying, quietly, behind the scenes, to worm their way back into the Sahel. But these new governments, they're not budging. They're standing tall, saying, "We won't go back to a deal that only worked for you." See, these leaders understand something now. France didn't get rich by magic. A big chunk of its success came from African soil. Gold, uranium, oil, all mined in Africa, all shipped out, all sold at a profit. And most of that profit never stayed on the continent. France built its empire off resources it didn't even own. Now, that steady pipeline of free wealth, it's drying up. And that's not just bad news for businesses, it's a warning sign for a whole system built on imbalance. And it doesn't stop there. President Traoré is also rethinking things on a cultural level. He asked a simple question: why are African judges still wearing those old-fashioned white wigs in court? You know, the ones that look like they were stolen from a 1700s costume party. They were meant to copy European courts, but copy why? So he banned them. No more powdered wigs. Because identity matters, and you can't reclaim your dignity while dressing like your colonizer. Next on the chopping block, certain foreign media outlets, BBC, Voice of America, blocked. Why? According to the government, it wasn't just about journalism, it was about who these platforms were giving the mic to. In the middle of a national struggle against terrorism, some of these outlets were doing interviews with terrorist leaders, airing their views, letting them criticize the government, even explain their actions like they were freedom fighters. To the Burkinabe authorities, that felt like betrayal. Their stance was simple: if you're going to report from here, don't hand the spotlight to those trying to tear the country apart. Imagine you're living in a country that's fighting really hard to get rid of bad guys. Dangerous ones who hurt people, cause chaos, and make life scary for regular folks. Now picture this. A big news outlet from another country comes in, sets up a camera, and starts interviewing those bad guys, giving them a chance to speak, explain their side, and even criticize the very soldiers risking their lives to protect you. Would that sit right with you? That's exactly how the government in Burkina Faso felt when some international news platforms aired interviews with terrorist groups. The leaders were like, hold up, whose side are you on here? Ours or the people trying to destroy us? To them, it wasn't about freedom of speech, it was about national safety and respect. So they banned those media outlets from broadcasting in the country. Then there's another rule that caught people's attention. The government made it illegal for men to date or show romantic interest in other men. It's a law now. If a man openly likes another man, he could be punished. Some people are calling this extreme, while others argue it's their country's right to set its own cultural values. But here's where things get tricky. When a small African country like Burkina Faso makes laws like this or blocks certain media, the international community jumps in and says, hey, that's not okay. You're becoming a dictatorship. Yet, in other parts of the world, like Saudi Arabia or Qatar, you'll find much stricter rules. There, two people can't even hold hands in public unless they're married. And even then, it's pretty strict. In some of those places, being gay can get you thrown in jail, or worse. But you don't hear people calling those governments dictators. Why not? Well, those countries have something that gives them a lot of power on the world stage: oil. A lot of oil. And because big powers like the US and Europe depend on that oil, they stay quiet. No name-calling, no sanctions, no lectures on freedom. But Burkina Faso, it's small, it's not rolling in oil. So when they try to take charge of their own media or laws, the pressure comes crashing in. And guess what? When Burkina Faso decided to walk away from old colonial influences and think for itself, the financial help from big organizations like the World Bank and IMF started to dry up. Back in the day, those groups were happy to give loans when the country played by their rules. But now, the funding is harder to come by. Why? Because independent thinking from Africa isn't always welcomed. Not when it means questioning old power structures. So pressure gets applied, hard. Think about this for a second. Burkina Faso is in a serious fight right now. Not just with words, but with real danger. The kind of situation where survival comes first. So you have to wonder, is this really the time to be airing shows where women chase after men for love and fame? Is that what the country needs most? Wouldn't it make more sense to use that screen time to boost the country's future? To hype up young people who are working on drones, building tech, or inventing stuff that could protect and uplift their communities? Imagine a show where the prize isn't a date, but a $100,000 grant to fund your next big idea. Now that's entertainment with a purpose. The thinking here is simple. When your house is on fire, you don't throw a party, you grab a bucket. And this isn't just about Burkina Faso. Take a look at China. They run things their own way. You can't just walk into China and hand out Bibles on the street. That's banned. Many books aren't even allowed to cross the border. Why? Because China wants to protect its way of life in its own way. And guess what? Nobody calls them dictators for it. So when Burkina Faso says, hey, let's build up our youth, let's invest in science, in tech, in ideas that actually help us grow, suddenly the world gets uncomfortable. But why? Why is it that doing things the African way is always met with pushback unless it looks or sounds European? Let's take another look at a country like the Democratic Republic of Congo. This is a place where war has been raging in the East for years. But what's happening in the West? Concerts, nightclubs, big parties. It's like one half of the country is bleeding while the other half is dancing, and everyone's confused. Are we at war or are we celebrating? Meanwhile, people say the Congolese army is too small. There are over 100 million people in the country, yet fewer than 100,000 soldiers. That's not even 1% of the population. How is a country that big not taken seriously? It's because too much focus has been placed on music and shows, and not enough on strength and unity. You can't blame outsiders for disrespect when you don't demand respect from within. But in Burkina Faso, there's a different mood. The government is saying, let's pause the parties. Let's redirect our energy. And for that, some call the president a dictator. But is he really? Or is he just trying to shift the culture from passive to powerful? Let us know what you think. And if you're into conversations like this, don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button for more.